Alright, welcome to the next episode of Decara Gaming. We're going to be going over Nightsisters in Phase 4 during this run. I'll talk about mods first, and then I'll have the run in the background while I talk over some tips and tricks. This is not a guide that's going to go over every single mechanic of how the run works. If you need that, there are some other YouTube content creators that did a phenomenal job of explaining P4 Nightsisters. I'm going to be going over the things that you can do to help get a little bit more out of your run. How to take advantage of turn meter manipulation using the ads and things like that. Alright, so here are my sets for my Nightsisters. Mother Talzin is using her Territory War sets. Ventress is using the same set I used on Finn. Old Daka is using my set I used on Jolie. Nightsister Zombie is the set I use in Arena for my Grandmaster Yoda. And Talia is using my HK set, which is a pure offense set. So all these are arena sets, like Old Donka is using Sith Trooper. This is my Grandmaster Yoda, HK. This is my Basilisk Shan Fallen. And then Mother Talzin is the exception, I guess. I'm using her Grand Arena set, which is crappier mods, but it gets the job done. When we get into it, so let's actually do this a little bit easier way so I can show you the stat increases. Mother Talzin is rocking 81 speed with 2046 special offense. Not extremely high numbers, but not the worst either. Ventress is using the Finn set that I had mentioned, so 98 speed, 72% critical hit damage, and 1100 offense. Old Daka is 11,000 bonus health with 133 speed. Her offense makes no real difference, but that is what we're using on her. Nightsister Zombie, I'm focused on speed, not so much health. She has 40, so almost 5,000 bonus health and 143 speed. Yes, it has critical hit damage, not much offense. And then Talia, being the focus of the heals, and every time she hits, her basic is what's healing. We have my best offense set on her, giving 83 speed and 1,410 physical offense. So we're going to go over the tips and tricks next while showing the run. Alright, let's cover some tips and tricks on using Nightsisters in Phase 4. So there is a written guide of everything that I have. You feel free to use that if you don't want to listen, but we'll cover pretty much the same topics. So starting off, whenever you are clearing the debuff, you have to remember that that character is not going to gain turn meter at all. They don't get the 50% turn meter because Treya's debuff is not going to hit their max health pool, and then Ventress's leadership isn't going to give them that bonus 50% turn meter. So clearing the debuff with someone that is potentially your heal next time is not what you want to do at all. However, let's say you make the mistake and do this, or you just have to do it anyways because the stacks are getting way too high for you to control. Talia and Talzin have ways to bring someone from 0 turn meter all the way up to 100% turn meter. This is done by taking 2 turns. So let's say you clear debuffs on Old Daka. Old Daka now has 0% turn meter. If Talzin goes after and you use the mass assist, the very first move is Talzin about to hit Darth Nihilus will give 50% turn meter to Old Daka because of the first Treya stack. Then, when your Talia lands her basic, she will heal her to full and take damage from another stack, thus bringing her to 100% turn meter. You can achieve the same thing if Talia doesn't have full health and you use her second special. When using Talia's, the only time I recommend using Talia's second special is to bring someone up from 100% turn meter. Otherwise, you're just increasing the amount of stacks that you have working against you. So let's say in this case, your Talzin was used to clear debuffs. If you use Talia's second special and she's not at 100% health, she will hit. So Talzin gets 50% turn meter, and then she'll hit using her basic again, bringing her to full health and giving Talzin another 50% turn meter so she comes back. This is a great thing to remember because a lot of times people will forget and they'll clear the Treya debuff with their healer and wonder why their healer didn't have 100% turn meter next time. So make sure you're taking advantage of those two characters that are able to bring someone from 0% turn meter all the way to 100. Okay. A lot of people ask when to use Talia's special. That right there is the best time to use her second special. Her first special of Water of Life is only used in the extreme situations that you need to recover quickly and you know old Daka can heal afterwards. Because Talia is the focus healer on the team. She is the one that is providing you the most heals throughout the entire run. Um, so if you use Water of Life and hurt her own health, how do you get her back to full quickly? And that's old Daka. So Water of Life, I do not recommend you use. It is truly a double-edged sword because if you take your Talia low, it's so hard to recover and bring her back up unless you have a Daka heal, in which case you could probably take her to full. Ventress might not necessarily take her to full health, but Daka will take her to full health. Going over who I use to clear buffs, I use Daka, Talzin, and Ventress to clear buffs. Ventress, though, is the least of the priorities. Like, I prioritize Daka and Talzin as being my main two debuff removers. That is because with Ventress, she is the main damage dealer, followed by Talzin. But Daka and Talzin are just someone simple to use. Ventress, her heal comes up quickly. She does a lot of AoE damage, and you're trying to take advantage of hitting Sion too. When is the prime time to clear debuffs? So I try to do this between 11 to 15 debuffs. You can't always keep it that low, but the reason I keep it that low is because once you start getting higher, Zombie will have trouble getting people to full health, and then Talia will. Knowing how strong each person's heal is on your team is pretty important. Like, you don't need to know the exact number. Oh, when Talia gets a crit, it does this much health on average. That's not what you need to know. You just need to know who is the strongest. And then, so for me, I know my zombie doesn't have a lot of health, and 20% of it at some point is going to start falling off. And it usually happens once I get around 20 debuffs, I'll have trouble healing a lot with zombie. I recommend clearing around like 11 to 15. You can go higher than this. I don't recommend going too much higher because when things get out of control in this run, they get out of control pretty quickly. You can give up 3 turns instantly. As you'll see in this video, at some point, I believe around 75% health, I gave 3 turns to Darth Nihilus, and yet I still got the full solo because there are ways to recover and there are ways to do really good. Yes, RNG always plays a factor, but there are things you can do to make your run go a little bit smoother. Okay, so as we're going through here, you'll notice I never target Sion for damage. And that's because I'm using AoEs to do damage on him. Now, there are some cases you want to take advantage of Sion. I do not believe I had to do it much during this run, but when you get Sion around 85% turn meter, you can stop targeting him, and you're going to use him potentially to feed turn meter to your own team. How do you use Sion to feed turn meter to your own team? Well, let's say that you know you're out of heals. If you hit Sion 3 times, you'll give him 100% turn meter, meaning he will go for sure before Nihilus can gain any turn meter and use all that speed that you've stacked up on him, because Nihilus is just sitting there gaining speed and speed and speed. So Sion, let's say it takes a turn and he crits you twice. He only does 2 turns and he crits you twice. Chances are your Talzin just gained turn meter because your zombie went under 50% health. If you're lucky, he crits you 3 times or hits you 3 times and your zombie dies. Then Daka gets a cooldown reset, as well as 50% turn meter, and she can go before Nihilus too. So you can take advantage of Sion by having him hurt your team to feed your team turn meter. One of the best things you can do with Sion is using him to help give you turn meter in a situation where you're almost out of heal. So I don't think I had to do it much on this run. I was very fortunate in that aspect, but I do this all the time on my runs. It is very good to have Sion as someone who can feed you turn meter. Now, old Daka can be a pain because you can't choose who her second hit does damage to, so you'll feed him turn meter that way, and sometimes you just can't control it. But something to keep in mind is when you see Sion getting high on turn meter, you can leave him high on turn meter and use that to your advantage. When do I kill ads? So the first two ads that you see, I kill immediately. That is because they're going to bring back two more ads, and you want to stack Ventress's damage as much as you can. So as soon as the next two ads appear, I recommend killing them quickly because it'll stack your damage higher. However, um, ads are an amazing way to manipulate turn meter again. So we know Talzin with her Zeta is gaining turn meter when you take someone under 50% health. Um, when you kill someone, Ventress is gaining, I believe it's 35% turn meter. I should look up that number, but I believe it's 35% turn meter. And what you can do is use those ads to feed you turn meter whenever you're having trouble with your heals. So let's say you have no heals up and Ventress is one turn away. Well, if you kill both those ads, you just gave yourself 70% turn meter, and Ventress should have been at 50 no matter what. So you got a free turn there. Let's say Ventress's heal is 2 turns away. So how do you take advantage of that? Well, you kill one ad, so Ventress is at 85. Since you have speed mods on Nihilus, you have speed on her, not just like 13 speed and a bunch of offense. You can race Nihilus to 100% if you have not hit him a bunch of times, and then kill the other ad and race him still up to full turn meter. I do this a lot during this run. I take advantage of the ads during this run to give me turn meter. At one point, I used the ads to give my Ventress 2 turns, and I may have given this may be where Nihilus gained turns as well. But taking advantage of this can really help you from stopping Nihilus taking 4 or 5 turns in a row, and you're like, wow, this run is completely gone. I gave him 3 turns at one point in a small span of time, and I think at another point I gave him 2 turns like right after each other. You can still get the full clear. You just have to take advantage of certain areas of what I'm talking about. All right. So one of the best ways to always have a heal up is remembering and knowing who has a heal. It doesn't matter if you remember them by names, if you give them numbers. So let's say I know some people do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's left to right. They'll remember, all right, 1 has a heal, 3 has a heal, and 5 has a heal. But knowing who has the heal is very important, because just because they have a heal doesn't mean you want to use it. You want to use the last person who has a heal. So that way, let's say your Talia, or not Talia, so your old Daka, your Talzin, and your zombie. Old Daka and Talzin have a heal, and it's old Daka's turn. You do not want to use it, because you want to give zombie a chance to lower her cooldowns, and that way use Talzin as the last heal. Now, who goes next? You don't have any control over. So maybe Talzin goes next. You then have to use the heal. But knowing who has the heal will allow you to either use this person or this person, and maybe cooldowns of everyone else get lowered in between. Hopefully that makes sense. But knowing the heal, so that way you can give turns to the people who are on cooldown, is very, very important. Without a doubt, probably the single most important thing throughout the entire run. When you're not able to start in P3 and you have to lose protection in P4, what is the best way to get the ball rolling? Well, using as much of your skills as you can to stack the debuff to take away your health. So using Talzin's mass assist, even though you don't need the heal, might be the best way to take off a bunch of your health, because you're not feeding yourself turn meter on that heal yet. You have protection you have to get through. So using skills and constantly taking turns, killing the ads to give Ventress more turns, you want to get rid of that protection as much as you can. So more turns to you before Nihilus goes, the better. Is there a particular way, like always this set of people to attack with this skill? I wouldn't say so, but using the mass assist on Talzin and trying to get that reset as fast as possible would be your best bet. So instead of instantly killing the ads, take them to 50% health and feed Talzin more turn meter. There are little things you can do, but for the most part, you just have to increase those stacks until you've lost your protection. Know the ranks of the heal. We talked about this. And then another thing I want to cover is how this run got to 16 mil damage. This run is 16 mil damage because of how far you're able to start in P3. In this run, I started at 5.8. I've done as far back as 7%. And that's because you have those arena mods and you're able to, in between topples on Treya, do a lot of damage because you don't have just plus 13 speed on them. You have plus 100 speed. You have plus 133 speed, 142 speed. You have all this speed. Now, why would I want to have speed instead of offense? Is because so many people tell me, "Well, I don't have time to do this in my guild because they're so quick with stuff." Well, you don't have time to sit there and refresh until Treya is down to 1% health. Chances are she'll never hit 1% health. It just goes straight through. But a lot of times, especially in P3, she'll get to 5% health or 7% health. And you could go in with your Nightsisters and do that phase change so they start on lower protection. If you do not have the speed mods on them, chances are you have to start at like 2% health max. And then you're going to potentially still run into trouble of losing someone before you make it to phase 4. So phase 3, having speed with damage on them, the way I've run them has allowed me to start as far back as 7% health, which is a huge bonus in terms of damage. So 5.8% of this damage shown is Treya's health pool before we got into phase 4. Alright, hopefully these tips help. If you had trouble understanding any of them, you feel free to drop by the Discord or stop by my Twitch channel and ask me directly. There's also the written guide. The written guide, I think, explained things pretty well, but if you have more questions on that, feel free to ask me directly again in Discord or somewhere. I appreciate you all. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you for supporting me and continuing to have this channel grow. And I will see you for the next guide.